Welcome back into Wake Up America. I'm Rob Finnerty. As we continue to cover the war in Ukraine, we want to bring you up to date on what's happening in Ukraine right now. Again, a country in Eastern Europe about the size of the state of Texas. We want to focus in on these regions colored in red right now. Over the last several weeks, Ukrainian forces have been able to take back a lot of the land in the eastern part of the country that Russia is claiming as Russian territory. Again, we're talking about 15% of the entire country of Ukraine. If we can get the next map, I can point that out to you. Here is the region where all this fighting is taking place. Again, that's 15% of all of Ukraine. We're talking about four regions: Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson in the south. And what's fascinating is that we are seeing a mass, thousands of Russian citizens fleeing their own country because Vladimir Putin needs 300,000 more fighters to join the Russian army to try and resecure these regions. The Ukrainian army, in the spirit in Ukraine, has been a sight to behold over the last month and a half. For more on that, I want to welcome in our next guest, retired Air Force Brigadier General and Newsmax contributor General Blaine Holt. General, I want to draw your attention to this video that is making the rounds this morning. It is a border checkpoint in Russia. Thousands of Russian citizens, you'll notice, mostly young men that would be drafted to fight for Vladimir Putin and the Russian army. They are fleeing the country. Did you ever think that we would see a sight like this?
Well, good morning. No, I think this is a surprise to everyone, but the one who is most surprised, I believe, is the Russian government and Vladimir Putin himself. Of all the things that they've calculated, their energy and food war against the world and Europe, the attacking and relentless mulching of the country of Ukraine, and then the pressure that they felt at the SCO to get this war over with, I don't believe that they thought they'd get this type of domestic response amongst their population of people just outright saying, I'm not going to the war. They're getting the very first recruits, or the first conscripts are now reporting to their training posts, but they're woefully undermanned as they try to get started.
Yeah, and I think this speaks to what the Russian people really feel about this illegal war happening in Ukraine that we've been covering for the last now in month number 7. General, this soundbite, I remember playing it for you a year ago, but this is January 2021. Joe Biden basically telegraphed to Vladimir Putin in Russia before the invasion took place. The invasion happened in February. He said, look, a minor incursion, we can deal with that. Take a listen.
Russia will be held accountable if it invades, and it depends on what it does. It's one thing if it's a minor incursion and then we end up having a fight about what to do and not do, et cetera. But if they actually do what they're capable of doing with the force amassed on the border, it is going to be a disaster for Russia.
Okay, now if my team can get that map back up of Ukraine with the portion shaded in red so far that Russia has taken over. Ukrainian army is fighting desperately to retake this region, but we're talking about these four, again, Luhansk, Mariupol, Zaporizhia, Kherson. Does that look like a minor incursion to you, General?
Well, if you recall, it's starting to look a lot more like the original borders that the Ukrainians are valiantly pushing back to. But that little adjunct that you played back from President Biden almost sounded like a conversation he had meant to have with Jake Sullivan and his Secretary of State. And here we are. Is this what the meaning was, that it's a minor incursion, hundreds of thousands of lives lost later, millions of people displaced, and an economic meltdown in Europe? Something that prior to this war, Rob, as we had talked about, we should have been deterring a year ago, 18 months ago.
Yeah, I want to show you this, what's trending on Google over the past 7 days. Ever since Putin said, I need 300,000 troops, how to break your arm has been trending on Google as young Russian men try and figure out how to get out of this draft. What do you make of that?
Well, it's absolutely the real deal. These are people who they're getting the real information about what's really happening there. It's tough to come by, but they are getting it. They understand that this war is an absolute illegal atrocity, and they don't want to participate. They don't see Russia as under attack. It doesn't matter how many times Medvedev or the others say, oh, the West is just at our door, they're going to come get us. That was all lies, and the Russian people know it.
Another one, General. So this is a recruiting center, not far from Moscow. A young man, middle of the night, went to the recruiting center and threw what looks like a Molotov cocktail, some sort of explosive, right at the front door again. He's trying to set this place on fire so they can't open up for business the next day and do the business of recruiting young Russian men to fight in this illegal war. What do you make of that? And what do you think Putin's inner circle is telling him? Does he even know this is happening?
I'll bet he doesn't know it's happening, but I'll tell you this, that acts like this run like just wildfire through the alternative media in Russia, Telegram, Twitter, those types of things, and they're learning about it, and you'll see more of this. But what we're seeing is a Russian population that is weary of this. They're rising up, they're rebelling against this. That's what we can characterize this. And really what we'll see is more inner circle erosion in Russia because the top Russian leaders around Putin will start to lose confidence that this is going to anywhere that's going to resolve itself well for any of them.
Yeah. General, you and I have talked about this offline on numerous occasions, but it seems like, at the beginning of the war, there was a ton of interest from people in America and the West. Now that we're closer to our own elections, people have started looking in and looking at all the problems we're dealing with now. President Zelensky doing his own saber rattling, the New York Post covering this along with several media outlets over the last couple days, basically saying that nuclear war could be a reality, according to President Zelensky. Is he trying to get people's attention in the West again?
I think he is. We're at a very dangerous point in the war, and I think he saw some of the terrible threats that Medvedev and Putin made of a nuclear nature. And so he's just going to glom right onto that and say, look what they're saying, look what they're saying, this is real. I don't know that he needs to for serious people watching this serious crisis, because economically, the results of this as we get into winter are going to wash all over Europe, and we're going to feel this even worse than what we're feeling, the economics of this now.
All right, General Blaine Holt, we always cover a lot of ground. Appreciate it. Good to see you. Thank you.
Great to see you. Thanks.
No crooked establishment. None of that twisting the truth. No talking down to me.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
I trust Newsmax.
Newsmax.
They don't tell me how to think.
They let
me decide.
Newsmax.
Real news
For real people.